kind of nice living off grid. I've said this before. The grass itself is not that tall. Of course, we got all the weeds that make it look really bad. And of course, you lived in a city, there's no way you could let the grass or the weeds grow that tall. But with gas prices so high, I'm trying to wait as long as possible to cut grass, because it takes about 2 gallons of gasoline to cut this yard. So I'm going to wait another week. I thought about cutting it this week, but again, it's just visually unattractive. It's not necessarily that tall. So I'm going to give it another week. So I've been doing these community tab posts. I don't know, if you go to my channel, there are several tabs right at the top. I don't know, videos, and any one of them says community. And I do these little polls in these community, and they're just silly little polls. But I learn a lot of information about my subscribers and people who are not subscribed to this channel or have never watched this channel. Sometimes they just pop up in people's feed. You've never heard of the channel, and it's easy, you know, you just click yes or no or whatever the case is. You see them all the time. Well, I stopped doing them for the longest time, these community tab polls, because my community wasn't growing. As you know, my channel has been pretty stagnant here for the last couple of years, and just all of a sudden it's exploded again, because I've been kind of doing this comparison between preppers and off-gridders. Preppers is what I'm calling people who stockpile. That's primarily their objective, is to stockpile for SHTF. And then I consider myself as self-sustaining, at least as much as possible. I realize I'm not completely self-sustaining, but I do think it wouldn't take very much to do it. So if SHTF were to occur, I probably wouldn't actually have to take any extra steps to accomplish living self-sustainingly. I mean, we feed our chickens with food that we can grow, sunflower seeds and grass. So we're already doing that. That works. They feed us eggs and chicken meat. Right now, they're almost keeping up with us. If we had to just rely on our own food, we wouldn't have enough. So we're growing some more chickens, and by next year, or well, even by the end of this year, we should be getting more eggs, and we should be in good shape. So we're identifying problems before SHTF were to ever happen. We're ready for the plan. One of the things that I said in my community tab post is, can you live without air conditioner? Because so many people tell me they can't live without air conditioner. Well, in an SHTF situation, mid-July, 100-degree temperatures, 50% humidity, and the electric goes out. And they're talking for long periods of time now. A news program did an interview and said that right now it's going to take anywhere from 2 years to 6 years to be able to get transformers. So transformers is a little box at the top of the, as you know, I have an easement for the electric company. And so you'll see up there right at the top of that pole is a transformer. And what that does is reduces the voltage from whatever is going through the power line down to something that your house can actually handle. Well, it used to take about 6 months to get a replacement, but apparently these things are made in China right now, and China is not producing or not shipping or not doing something. So it's going to take anywhere from 2 to 6 years to get these things. Now, my thinking is this is going to take some time to reduce our normal inventory levels. I would imagine if the electric company ran out of transformers, they would take the transformer from my pole here, just take it off because I'm not using it, and use it somewhere else if they needed to. So they would start reusing old materials instead of just using new ones. So let's say that in a year or two, they completely run out of used transformers they can't use anymore. Somebody hit your power line in your area with their car, which just happened not too long ago in a town nearby, and it took several hours for them to replace the transformer and the pole, and people actually died from heat exhaustion. So I asked, can you live without an air conditioner? Because we may have to actually consider this from anywhere from 2 to 6 years. I mean, I'm not trying to fearmonger, this is just what was reported. Well, Carolyn and I don't have air conditioning, we don't at all. And we've gotten up to 105 degrees this year with the heat index, I think almost up to what, 115? Today it's 95 degrees. with a humidity of 52%. And there's no breeze here in Missouri. There's just none. So you just constantly sweat. Nothing ever evaporates off of you, which is different if you live in Arizona or Utah or someplace over there. I know we were in Utah a few years ago, camping in August in the desert, and I think it was called Red Sands or something, National Forest, I forget what it is, but it was there by Hurricane, Utah. And the temperatures were getting up to about 110 degrees, 105 to 110 degrees every day. We didn't have air conditioning there either. That was pretty miserable. I mean, you know, they say, oh, it's a dry heat, which is true. There was no wet shirts. Here, very regularly, you'll see me just saturated. Well, there, it just evaporates. So when you do your laundry, you take your laundry off, you'll just see a coating of salt on your shirt. It's amazing. It's quite different over there. And there's always a breeze over there, so that the breeze is actually removing that sweat. It's actually cooling you off. So, but here there's just no cooling in the humidity. So you sit in front of a fan if you can. Well, the poll that I posted said about 50% could live without air conditioner, and the 50% that they couldn't live without air conditioner. Of course, a couple people commented, I got spider web on me, and they said, you can't live in Florida without air conditioning. Got one that said, you can't live in Georgia without air conditioning. Well, just so happens I've been to both states, and yes, you can. I've done it. Not for long terms, 2 weeks, but you can do it. When I say, can you live without air conditioning? I mean, can you literally live without air conditioning? I replied to one person and said, well, that's crazy to me. I can't imagine how that works. You know, before the invention of air conditioning, there was people that lived in Florida. I actually Googled it, and I have the numbers, and I said, it's amazing to me that every summer, the entire population died because they didn't have air conditioning. Well, of course, that's an exaggeration. Nobody died. Well, I mean, some might have died, but they continue to grow. People still live there, and they lived there before air conditioning. You'll watch those old movies where people are living down south. They don't have air conditioning, so you can do it. You just got to drink a lot of water, and you don't need to be working in the heat. Just stay out. Look at me, I'm in the shade right now. Over there, there's sun. Over here, there's shade. It's got to be 10 degrees cooler over here. You're just not getting blasted by that sun. Just don't work in the heat. You can't be working in the heat. But you're going to have to expect that we might have some power outages coming soon. I know earlier this summer, they were shutting places down, rolling blackouts all through the country. Minnesota and different places. Minnesota, I think, said, one town in Minnesota, said that they jacked up the prices from like 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Now, another poll that I posted, I said, are you ready for SHTF? Now, I know this one's a little extreme, but actually more people are not ready for SHTF than people that are ready for SHTF, which is kind of surprising to me, considering we just came out of the pandemic. I mean, you would have thought that people would have thought, wow, this can happen. This could happen. Don't get me wrong, the pandemic wasn't that bad. I mean, heck, we moved on the property the month the pandemic, the lockdowns happened. We was trying to get the camper off the truck, and we were going to live in the camper. We didn't get our solar panels put up right away. We had to get the well pump installed. So we were doing a lot of things to get the place ready, and we never left the property for a month. So here we are, not even a fraction of self-sustaining as we are now, and we were able to last a month before we had to leave. Well, now we got the chickens and we're canning food. We could definitely go a very long time, if not for the rest of our lives. Now, I would hope that people are ready for short-term problems. You know, they got maybe a month's worth of stockpiled food. Look, it's going to be tough. If you've never practiced living without the modern conveniences, such as without electric for a month, it's going to be tough. I know my grandma, electric went down for 2 weeks, and she had 2 freezers full of meat, and that's what she did every year. Every fall, she would butcher cattle and pigs, and she'd fill up 2 of her freezers, and they would last the rest of the year. Well, springtime came around, and electric went out for 2 weeks, and they lost all that meat. There was just no way to save it. They had nothing as a backup plan. Now, my grandma, I wanted you to understand, was kind of a homesteader. They grew a huge garden every year. They canned their food. They had firewood. They cut their own firewood. They never heated with electric or gas or anything. So they were pretty old-timey, even though they still had electricity, of course. And it was surprising to me that they had no plans to save that meat. Well, years later, I don't know, 2 or 3 years later, my grandma was staying with my dad. Long story, don't want to get in the whole thing, but there was an exchange of a generator. I was loaning Dad a generator or something. I can't remember the details. And Grandma said, boy, I wish I'd have had that during this power outage. Now, knowing my grandma, I could have said, hey, here's what you do. About every 2 hours, you go out there, start that generator up, you plug your freezers into it, let the freezers run for about an hour, shut off the generator, and she would have been up every 2 hours in the middle of the night, starting that generator. It would have been a religion for her. She would not have missed it. So I was surprised that they didn't even have the basic concepts of what to do if the electric goes out, with hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars of meat in the freezer that just rotted. And they took that meat and they threw it out in the woods. Of course, they had 20 acres. They threw it out in the woods. I suppose the raccoons and the coyotes got to eat very well for a while. So what's your plan? Well, Carolyn and I have a plan. We have solar panels, and the solar panels' primary job is to run the refrigerator. And then the other big power consumer we have is our well pump. Well, what we'll do, as soon as the SHTF electric outage happens, we will stop using the refrigerator. And then we would completely rely on chicken eggs and chicken meat to sustain us. And it wouldn't even be that hard for us. I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So all the remaining power that I have available, because now I'm not running that refrigerator, I can use for the well. So if you'll click that super thanks button down there, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to become more self-sustaining so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.